Are you a Filipino living in Middle East, Europe, Asia and the Pacific, USA or Canada? You are our story. You are our Filipinos world.
The Filipinos World every Saturday 5 to 6:30 p.m. only in the Filipinos World and the Manila Times Facebook pages.
Sign up for a year and pay less than 71 pesos per month. Visit tmt.ph/premium to get your free 30 days of the Manila Times Premium.
This program is in partnership with the Manila Times, Azul TV, and brought to you by Love Module, Bex Logistics Solutions.
From jeepneys to Jollibee, the Philippines has always had a knack for making global trends uniquely our own. But how are we adapting to the AI revolution? Hello, everyone. Hello, Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao, and to all the Filipinos across the globe. Karla Kangleon here, and welcome to my episode Spotlight on Global Leaders. I'm all about connecting people and opportunities. And of course, as the founder of ExpatCareers, global community, co-founder of Lifestream Network events, and your host right here on the Filipinos World. Thank you so much for joining me. And I'm so thrilled to be your guide to everything exciting happening in the Philippines. To keep you in the loop on the latest trends, let's get right onto it. Imagine a Philippines where AI isn't just a buzzword, but a driving force behind our nation's progress. Our guest today is at the forefront of this digital transformation, shaping how AI will impact every Filipino's life. He's not just imagining this future, he's building it. He is a visionary leader who's revolutionizing the way Filipino businesses approach AI and data science, particularly in the power sector. He's the Chief Data and AI Officer at AboitizPower and Aboitiz Data Innovation, with 25 years of experience in AI, data science, and digital transformation. Let's all welcome my dear friend, Luis Gonzalez. Hello, Luis. My first question with all of my guests, I'm going to ask you this. Who is Luis Gonzalez really? Let's dive into you.
Let's start easy. Okay.
Mhm.
So I'm Mexican born, Canadian raised professional that focused early in my career on data science, specifically computer science at the time. There wasn't the discipline of data science per se. I started working even before I graduated with energy companies, oil and gas particularly, and then nuclear in Canada. Worked my way through a lot of implementations of key software, operation software, as well as transactional or information technology too. And through that experience, I lived in about 11 different countries, always following the project. Eventually, I was brought into Asia to head operations for GE Power Digital. I was the chief data officer for GE Power. And I stayed in Asia. This is my 11th year living as an expat in Singapore. Singapore is probably the place that I lived the most in my life, even more than Mexico and more than Canada at this stage. And I've been working in the Philippines for the last 3 years, helping the Aboitiz group. My role really is as a growth leader, I would say, strategist to a degree. I've had the experience of established companies and also startups. This is my 4th startup in the space of AI. I was lucky enough to be part of one in Montreal, Canada, where We fundraised $250 million. So this is early in 2017. So we were at the beginning of that big wave of AI, and a lot of mistakes were made. So learned a lot from that. And today what we're doing is really establishing a company in Singapore that incubates and learns from the limitations and the solutions that we're putting in the Philippines, because the Philippines is a great sandbox, a great incubating area for solutions in the power sector, particularly in Southeast Asia. Today, we did a review as part of our technology modernity, you could say, or what we're putting in the plants. And I'm happy to report we're ahead of Indonesia and Malaysia with what we're doing in 3 years. So it's a good feeling to know that we're moving faster. Filipinos are really good at innovation. And we believe we can natively do it in English. We can move a lot faster because we're a lot leaner and adaptive, right? And if that works well, we're hoping to build a digital industrial company for Southeast Asia, incubated in the Philippines.
That's a big feat, and I think it's quite a journey that you've had, 11 countries as well. So can you share a pivotal moment in your career that led you to focus on AI?
Yes, okay. So even though I'm a computer scientist, the reality is that when you focus on implementation of established systems, you're really not at the forefront because you're trying to put in what already works, right? So being someone that is focused in the power sector, I always wanted to work for General Electric, right? And I managed to do that in 2015, and I had to decide to leave GE. I was already a vice president, looking to be a senior vice president by then. I didn't think I was ever going to leave that company because I was hoping to be in power of my life. And I realized that if I really wanted to learn the transformational technology that we were going to use, I needed to go to a place that doesn't have a business model built on the old technology. So I left in 17, and went to a startup. And that was a very scary thing because I've never been in a small company that has a lot of challenges, that is very disorganized, right? And we fundraised a significant amount of money, but we had no clue what we were doing, to be very frank. It was pivotal because we were working with Turing Award recipient Joshua Bengio, which is one of the 3 fathers of deep learning. You would have heard Dr. Hinton got the Nobel Prize, who's one of the fathers of deep learning because he was helping doing research of deep learning in chemistry. Same thing, he's a co-developer of Dr. Hinton and Dr. Bengio, right? And learning from the creators of deep learning what it meant to do AI at the early stage of this wave was a pivotal moment. I started my master's then. I went to academia again. And I realized just how much I didn't know about the future, what the future was going to become. So I sacrificed half of my paycheck, probably even more. I ended up in a journey of 3 to 5 years of really trying to learn what this was. I don't make the same money that I used to, but I feel ready to be that future power leader that requires to know data technologies as much as power technologies. And that was a big transition. I feel now that had I stayed in GE, I would be a very overpaid and obsolete leader, not understanding what the future was going to become. So that's one of
hungry for this. There must be a hunger, a thirst for something as well to grow further into AI. Is it really AI in particular or data science?
AI. I think AI was a consequence. When I graduated back in 1998, right? This tells you how old I am. I left my home in Mexico early enough, perhaps a little too early, before I was even in my 20s, right? And I had it in my mind. I didn't come from a wealthy family at all. I had it in my mind that I needed to do something worthwhile leaving for. And what I realized early in my career, like even when I was in school, is that software was going to transform the way we do something as vital as energy. That was the hypothesis for me. And I don't think it has changed yet. When I realized that the most innovative wave of technology was beginning to happen in 2016, 15, I made the jump easier because I didn't leave Mexico and my family to be a mediocre, comfortable leader. I left so that it made sense for me to leave, to try to truly drive something that was good for humanity. So at least I could look at my mom and dad, all it was worth it, which is one thing that has always motivated me. And now I see that it's definitely going to do it. In fact, I have this hypothesis that power companies are not going to be what they are today at all. Like there's going to be a hybrid of power companies and data centers coming together, creating a brand new company that doesn't exist today, for example. And knowing that will happen and knowing how it would happen is perhaps the most rewarding side. But you have to take chances for sure. Like, I think the background for me is having left Mexico, it's already taken a chance. So might as well keep taking chances, because if you don't, then none of that was worth doing, right?
Imagine that. I mean, uprooting yourself and actually really taking chances. That is one lesson actually that I also learned for myself. And I really, really, truly admire your journey. And of course, like, because AI is at this forefront of everything right now, and it's a buzzword we hear everywhere. Can you explain to all of us what AI is, as like you're speaking to a 5-year-old?
Sure. And I like that question, by the way. I thought it's a good way to try to minimize the abstract nature of what we do. I would say that the term artificial intelligence to begin with is wrong. It was created in the late 60s to drive a lot of buzz, to drive interest, and to replace the term cybernetics, by the way. But it's not right in the sense that we don't yet fully understand how human intelligence works to be able to claim that we've created an artificial one, right? But set that aside, we've created, through applied mathematics, the ability to learn, non-human based learning. And how I explain it to a 5-year-old would be, think of 3 stages. You have a little tiny robot, right? A pet robot, if you may. And the first stage, you have to teach it how to cook an egg. You're going to go into a kitchen and you want to teach it to cook an egg. So in the first stage of learning, this robot needs to be given a list of procedures, like a really long list of do this, turn the fire, and it has to be so specific that you have to write thousands and thousands of lines of instructions for the robot to be able to do it. That's software until about 1995. Okay. Then the next stage, then that would be the traditional coding that we do. The next stage of this robot is, instead of you giving all the instructions, you say, watch me do it. So you're cooking the egg, and the robot is more intelligent now and more able to look at what you're doing and copy exactly how you do it. But you need to be very prescriptive. You need to be give it a small amounts to learn, right? That's what we call traditional machine learning. I'm teaching you how I want you to do things and what good looks like, right? Then comes the world of deep learning, which is the revolution that started in 2016, roughly. The robot watches videos, 10,000 videos of eggs being cooked by many people, not just by you. And by watching this massive amount of content and recipes and videos, it figures out how to cook the egg itself. This is no longer the transfer of learning from human to machine. Is the ability of the machine to learn on its own based on what it's seeing. And that little machine starts cooking eggs way better than you can do it. That's the biggest differentiator, is that by being able to see all these thousands of chefs cooking eggs, it realizes that it's a better way to do it. And it perhaps doesn't do it the way you do it at all. Perhaps it doesn't even use the stove. That's the exciting aspect of it, is because we've been able to not just tell the machines what to do, but to teach them how to learn, they started to outperform our own ways because they've learned a better way to do things. And that's why AI is exciting today.
Ladies and gentlemen, let me just say that this is the easiest, as a 5-year-old, and even for me, my age, this is the most digestible way for me to learn what AI
Fine.
is.
It took me only 10 years to come up with that.
Yeah, AI, machine learning, and deep learning. And with that, okay, you guys are gonna have to like watch it again, or if you missed out on on the last few minutes, you gotta go back and then recheck and then go back and listen because it is the most digestible way. Let me just say thank you so much for saying that. So
No problem. And look, for your audience,
yeah,
don't think about it in terms of intelligence, because that means like you're seeing a dog, like you're seeing a cat, right? Think about it in terms of learning, because there are things in our environment like mold that learns the best path to food, but he doesn't have a brain and he doesn't have a sense of existence. That is what we have built. That's why the word learning is more adequate. So don't worry too much about, do they want to kill us or replace us? They don't have that understanding of purpose. The only thing they can do is learn mathematically better than we can in some areas and in some tasks. So that's it. That's all we built, is a tool for learning.
and so how important is human learning?
Very much so. In fact, this is one of the limitations of my community. We're so focused as computer scientists or data scientists in the fascination of the algorithm, because it's a really sophisticated mathematical formula. I mean, just because I was able to simplify, it doesn't minimize just how complex some of this stuff is, right? That we kind of forget that it needs to interact with humans. There's a term called symbiotic AI, which is gaining more momentum now. And I'm one of the community leaders pushing for that, where instead of focusing on the algorithm only, we got to focus on the enhancement of human capability. At least for the next 50 years, what we want is models that are human-led, machine-assisted. And once the machine has learned enough, maybe machine-led, human-assisted, but always in those two. Full automation is too risky for certain things. And while there are industries that take advantage of it, the best way to think of AI in the next 50 years is, how is it going to augment human capability? And that's what we really want.
Now, one thing that I noticed is, of course, there will be resistance. Not everyone cannot really just accept AI as part of their lives. It's either you accept it or you reject it for now. But AI is here to stay. So could you tell us, give us a real world examples of how we can use AI in our daily lives and in our careers and businesses?
Well, I have a few for sure. Maybe one of the best way is to explain a generational change that has happened in the world. And that gives you a sense of how we can continue to use it. 20 years ago, if you were a 17-year-old, you needed to learn how to navigate a city that you've never been part of by understanding where north, east, west, south was, or by being able to read a map and being able to look at buildings and memorize a track to it. There is a certain part of our brain that is adept to navigation, where we've effectively find our bearings as humans, right? Even through understanding where north is based on the position of the sun. That part of our brain is almost gone now. A 20-year-old now has no ability to navigate without a phone. Meaning, it's harder for them to find where north, south, east, west is, because they never had to do geolocation without technology. Now, do you think the current humans are not as intelligent? Maybe. But we could also argue that the brain power of this new 20-year-old doesn't need to worry too much about geolocation and navigation, because he can worry about other things. Now, let me give you another example. Korea was probably the largest engineer per capita population in 1995. It was the country that was spewing out the most engineers because of the moment they were in their economic development. Today, they have the highest population of entertainers per capita. Korea went from a country that was based on engineering to a country based on online content creators. Now, does this make the Korean economy more weak? Probably. I mean, if you ask the Korean Nuclear Agency, they're genuinely worried because they don't have the nuclear engineers that they used to.
Mm.
But maybe Korean young people can find their true passion easier because they don't depend on having to know nuclear engineering to have electricity.
Oh, that
So
is quite good. Yeah. All right.
AI will take the things that we don't like to do, so we have more time for the things that we like to do. And a concrete example is Grab, right? You don't, before when I first came to Manila in 2013, just visiting, if you wanted a taxi to take you from BGC to Ortigas on a Friday at 3 p.m., you needed to be down on 32nd Street flagging and hoping someone will stop. And they will negotiate with you because they didn't want to go to Ortigas, right?
Yeah.
Today, we don't have that problem. It's still hard to find a car, but at least you know when it's going to come and how much it's going to cost.
Even as simple as somewhat like I was a while ago before we started our interview, I was saying, Alexa, turn the music off. Right?
So,
There's Siri, there's Alexa. How do you feel about that? Like, they are part of our daily lives.
so what we should be happy about is investigating information will cease to be a task that takes hours. Even if we grew up with Google, finding things in Google was difficult. Sometimes we found wrong information because we didn't want to go to the second page of the Google search, right? Now, finding that information is easier and easier with Gen AI. And identifying what should I be doing X, or what should I be talking to someone about, or a concrete example, how do I do something I never done before? There's already a guide that can take you through it, right? So everyone should be using that for it. And I would commend you for it. Like if I have a new kid joining me and I said, look, I need some piece of code to help me refactor this particular site, and he put that in GPT and come up with something there and work from there, I would applaud him. I came from a generation where you had to code from scratch, but I would have taken 10 hours to do. He did it in 1 hour. Did he do it right? Well, probably could improve, but the fact that he can do things faster without having to fully understand how they're done just so that he can assemble it is already a win for everybody, because that person is spending more time thinking about the problem and less time coding the problem, right? So in my view, we should try to use AI for tasks that we're not particularly good at, so that we cease to have to worry too much about trying to be good at it.
Which reminds me, like when I was when I would write before in school, it would take me like a long time to really compose a story. But then I have it in my head and I think it's a fantastic story, but then I can't really seem to write it down. And I really find AI, ChatGPT, Gemini as well would be my go-to, as well as Claude, to create these stories for me. And of course in my business as well, just to give an example, for my events, I can create concepts for my events through using AI. And there are many things that I did not even think of, and then it was offered to me as an example. So that for me, I totally agree with what you said. I mean, to use them and to maybe see what it does. But then, of course, it's not perfect. But then it's up to really us to make it.
Yeah, and I think what I like about that is the complicated task. For example, I use it for investing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Look at this company, tell me its earning per shares. Is it worthwhile investing? Give it a score from 1 to 10, right? It comes back with a 7.5 for these reasons. The hard part of trying to think if it's foundationally okay to invest in it, I don't have to do. I had a little bit of course in business degree, and I'm okay with finance, but I've always found some things a little too abstract, right? So then I can focus on, do I like where the company is going, right? So the creative aspect of that task, I take it myself. The painful aspect of that task, I make sure that, in this case, is Claude helping me with it, because he's a great, excellent analyst, right? So that's where it will happen. I think it'll free up our time to be more creative, to be more lateral thinking. So I'm hoping that AI helps us become smarter if it's designed properly, rather than replace us, right? Because smarter is the ability to apply things differently, to experiment, right? That's what we want to do as humans.
Totally agree. Totally agree. So, what's the coolest thing you've seen AI do ever?
Oh, that's a good question. There's a couple. One that I absolutely loved, and it was a great reaffirmation moment that I was in the right field. I love art. My mom's a painter. My sister used to sculpt. I'm not great with visual arts per se, but I've always been fascinated for exploring the human mind through arts, right? Obviously, I don't have that much time for it, but I went to an exposition who was put together by Rafik Anadol, which is a Turkish-American artist. And he creates representations using deep learning of, first it was from paintings that already existed and trying to show, an example of masking for Monet or other potential artists' styles, right? But then he started building some of his own, and how he built his own was with images and source of, for instance, the universe, and then asking for a brand new representation of the universe that no one has ever seen before. And I found that so engaging that if I know that there's people that don't like art because they find it too difficult to engage with, but this will be a way to immerse anyone with a certain amount of curiosity into what art could be. So the idea that art museums are not going to be the same anymore, that there's going to be a lot more immersion, there's going to be a lot more representation and the creation of almost universes in the style of somebody, right? Makes me feel hopeful that there'll be a lot more people interested in art in the future generations than the one we have today, right? And that to me was a great, unexpected use of AI that I saw beyond just what companies need or what banks need or governments need, but really what humans need, and humans need inspiration, right? And that was really cool. The other one is I signed out for a machine learning music channel, and I paid for a few months to build my own jazz music based on jazz music that I like. And it generated music that has never been generated for anybody. It's my own, right? And I really like that jazz score because obviously the human brain likes patterns. So it identified the pattern that I find most enjoyable in jazz. And I was listening to this channel with custom-made jazz music for me. And that is pretty cool because we're gonna personalize the human experience so much that everyone's gonna be unique, and not just unique in the things that they have, but unique in the things that represent them, right? So that to me, it gives me hope that there's just so many things we have yet to do that could enhance the human expression beyond just what companies need, right? And I don't think we've even scratched the surface of what that could be.
I would like to make a song as well. Could you share what that is?
Sure. It's a channel from the US. I don't know now what I canceled my subscription because I already have it, right? But I'm happy to share with you. There's actual machine learning music generation.
Actually, there's one,
you can create your own music.
There's one that I could suggest. It's called Sumo. Sumo is a really good tool to create music. I also tried creating music for my pets.
Like it's amazing what we find. And look, there's going to be a feedback loop to our behavior, our brain activity. At some point, we're going to be able to customize things based on what we really need. One thing I'm really excited about is that at some point, our bathrooms become the labs of our health. We're going to be able to measure how we're doing every morning. And that would mean that we would have custom-made medicine based on the preconditions we are developing. That, to me, I read a paper on reinforcement learning for that. It's called dynamic treatment regimes, it's called. And they claim that would be the reason why the first human lives to be 150 years old, because you would never fully develop a disease. You will always be pre-diabetic, pre-heart condition, pre-cancerous. But because you're so dynamic, you're always getting treatment for your preconditions before they develop, right?
I guess it begins with the smartwatches that we have as well. So with all the smartwatches, then it tells us like
smart bathroom, and then you'll do tests in the morning. Yeah. And
then so now it will be graduating to that. I'm very sure because I admire the bathrooms and the toilet seats in Japan. I think that they would have the fastest way of identifying probably AI. How do I say it? Magnifying like how AI could help us with our health with that as well.
There's a stage of AI development we call the personalization of humans. Right now we're at I would say the efficiency stage, where we're getting to the point where we're very efficient about buying airline tickets, and that efficiency makes it so that there's dynamic pricing. You don't pay what I pay for the exact same flight, the exact same day. We pay different prices, right? So it's good for the airline, not necessarily good for the customer, but in a way, there's the ability to create enough dynamism in travel, in supply chains, right? Even in education, that will start personalizing. But right now it's about efficiency. The next stage is about personalization. And personalization means that we will get an education custom built for our learning abilities. We could get, clothing custom made based on our, not just body shape, but fashion preferences, right? And no longer you're buying Nikes that everybody has, you're buying the capability to build your own shoes, right? And that personalization stage will be really cool because the definition of what the technology does, it'll be an entirely personal experience. It does this for me, it does something else for you, right? And that would create economic communities that not just buy things, but also sell ideas to others, right? And we could be making money out of our passions, out of our interests, right? So that part is, I think, that next stage, which is coming and probably staying for the next 10 to 15 years, would be a very exciting one.
Oh, that's so cool. Okay, personalization is actually something that I've been experiencing through my smartphone, and then I search on something, and suddenly everything else that comes in soon afterwards would be about that. So,
yeah, and
is that driven as well?
Is that what?
Is that by AI as well?
Yes, facilitated because of deep learning. And if you think of your phone is also a marketplace, is where you buy and sell things. Your home will become a marketplace. Your car will become a marketplace. So now that capability we have on our smartphone will extend to our home, will extend to our car, and to our closet, for example. So now the interaction with the world will be a lot larger and a lot more platforms with a lot more options, right? Just, it started with our phones, but it's going to extend to our basically everyday life, right?
Labmodal manufactures a highly distinctive and exclusive range of interior solutions that combines functional excellence with design appeal. Solutions with integrated, innovative, ergonomic features to well-designed workplaces. Our company is based on the inherent values that shape the core of who we are. It is through our living values that we continue to fulfill the promise of our ideal and environmental design standards. Each and every groundbreaking product we've introduced over the years has been the result of our team's hard work and dedication to provide our absolute best to who we care most about, who is our customers. Whether the job is big or small, our team is used to solving complicated tasks and makes sure to get projects to successful completion. Whether it is local or global. This is why Labmodal is known as one of Europe's leading manufacturers of innovative system solutions for devices used in laboratory facilities, hospitals, and educational facilities. Solutions that can be easily adapted to the growing needs and workflows demands of the future. Labmodal, designing safety.
How in tune is the Philippines right now with AI and the future?
Well, the Philippines has, there's a term we call technical debt, which is, let me give you an example to understand it. Imagine that you showed up in Singapore and you wanted to download the Grab app because you don't want to pay 10,000 pesos for a taxi ride, right? Which is possible in certain times. So you want to take a Grab, or you want to take your phone out and do some of this, but you're still having a Nokia 238. You haven't bought an Android phone or an Apple phone. So now the problem is not just whether you can take advantage of that app, is the fact that you're really behind with the technology that you have to be able to even do it. So now you need to buy a new phone just to be able to do that. That explains a little bit the position where almost every industry in the Philippines is in. We have underspent because our leaders made enough money without having to, and we need to catch up. So I think the Philippines is beginning to be aware of the fact that we need to catch up. And there's certain sectors where this is clear. We need to catch up to what the world is doing. The advantage that the Philippines has is that they're very good at adopting things quickly. Probably the best in Southeast Asia. And let me explain. Facebook tests almost any upgrade they do first in the Philippines before anywhere else in Southeast Asia. Because Filipinos put up with things not working well, and they figure out a way to around it very quickly. Because they're so used to things not working that they're very adaptive. They're very good at lateral thinking, right? And not worrying too much about it. They just, okay, this doesn't work, I figure something else, right?
That's true.
Strength. That's what I tell my teams, is like, that's a strength that not many in Southeast Asia have. Maybe Indonesia to a degree, but you guys do it in English natively, right? And in that sense, testing services and products in the Philippines as a first landing stage for the rest of Southeast Asia is become a norm. You know, a lot of companies do this. And in my view, that gives you an advantage. Even though it's not an advantage of maturity, it's an advantage of capability. If you apply that ability to adapt to the creation of services and products in the digital space, it could make the Philippines a country that never had to industrialize. It goes from services to digital services without having to go through manufacturing, for example. And that would be significant. I think that, and I believe that's a true potential for the Philippines. So the other thing I see is, because of the young population you have no preconceptions of what things should be. You're very open to just accept something being new. And that's a real blessing, because when I see things in Singapore, there's a lot of preconception of what things have to be. And to convince them that they need to do it differently is actually quite hard, right? In the case of the Philippines, they're open to trying anything. So in my view, what's ahead of the Filipino, it's its adaptive culture that could easily absorb technology if it was good.
Yes. And of course, one of the biggest challenges and possible opportunities AI would present for businesses here in the Philippines then?
Well, this is where I have a hypothesis. I may be wrong, and I'm happy to be disagreed by Filipinos, because I'm not Filipino. I'm just an observant.
Mm-hmm.
Filipinos are very artistic. Very artistic. And you guys know, obviously, there's no surprise to you, they're so good at karaoke, right? Artistic because you're lateral thinkers. You like to try things out, and you have no problem at being wrong at something, right? That to me is one of the best positions to be in to implement AI. because artificial intelligence used to be a research problem when I started. And back in that time, Canada, the United States, maybe England and China were the only ones that could research to that degree. Then it became an engineering problem. That's where China, Japan, Korea became really good at it, and the Americans also, and the Germans. But today, AI is a design problem. The technology that creates AI has been created. The research that advances AI has been researched. And while that continues, it won't leapfrog like it used to. Now it's really about how do you apply that we've created and stabilized. And Filipinos could be very good at trying that same technology in a different way because of I think the cultural strengths of that. So for me, the artistic mindset could drive entrepreneurs that are not worrying about things not working, trying it differently, could drive a very new, innovative way of seeing the technology, could also drive startups that survive better because they're in a cheaper environment, because Manila is cheaper and perhaps other sides of the Philippines are even cheaper. And a hungry young population that just wants to try things out and see what happens, right? With customers that are willing to try with them, right? So in my view, there is a lot of potential in the Filipino culture to be good at adapting technology. It's just, we've never really been good at developing it. But this particular technology adapts to humans. So the race of AI is not going to be won by engineers. It's going to be won by designers.
Definitely. So it means it's really up to us how to use these tools.
Correct.
Create something. So it could be, yeah. We're all given, actually, we're in the cusp of being given all these tools, AI. There's a lot of AI for a lot of things. And it's really all up to us. I wonder now, because a lot of people could be wondering, and it has been disputed many times. So AI replacing jobs. So what jobs will AI create, and which ones might it replace?
Well, that really comes down to the design of these solutions, right? Obviously, like we spoke before, things that we don't like to do, that are repetitive, that don't require a lot of brain power to do, right? They are candidates because AI is going to be better doing those. And let me give you a concrete example. When we started the field of computer vision, one of the first problems to solve was facial identification, identifying a human by their facial features. In 2016, facial identification was really bad. It was maybe 10 times worse than human capabilities. But by 2019, we outperform humans, meaning AI can identify better the faces of humans than humans can, right? Even if it's, for instance, looking at someone's passport and looking at their face, humans make about 5% error margin. And today, the error margin for machines is less than 0.002%. So if you're sitting in an airport and your job is to look at someone's passport and look at them and see if they're the same person, AI will take your job, if that's only what your job is. The secret here is someone that already knows facial identification as part of their job. What else can they be doing to optimize the entrance of, in this case, immigration, right? And things like understanding risks, things like understanding behavior. If someone is feeling a little tense when they come to immigration, humans can be observing for that because the machine's already taking the facial identification. Now, this is where, in the Philippines, we will have a problem if the businesses that are established do things that machines do better, like answering a phone. But if we evolve those businesses to take advantage of what Filipinos are really good at, like empathy, is that person under stress? Answering the phone is not the problem anymore. It's trying to put yourself in the position of the person answering the phone and realizing maybe they're sick, maybe they're tired, maybe they're worried. See, that, in my view, would be the kind of change we need to drive, is let the machines do what the machines do well and take advantage of the capabilities of the human to do what the machines don't do well, right? like empathy, for example. So the jobs that will be replaced are those that are mind numbing, the ones that you don't need human capabilities to be able to do, like cleaning, for example. The ones that will not be replaced, at least not soon, are the ones where being a human and what it means to be a human, dignity, empathy, compassion, are really required, right? And this is where I see a lot of synergy if it's designed properly for businesses to work with Filipinos in their culture, for example, because there's a lot of strengths in the things that AI cannot do well.
So what advice would you give for the viewers at home who would like to know what skills they should have to prepare for AI? What should they be for their careers and businesses?
For their careers. Okay.
Yes.
Look, one key thing in the past in the Philippines, and that applies to a lot of countries like Mexico, for example, we thought that we needed to go abroad to have access to good information. And that was a key differentiator. Those that could go to the United States will get access to information that we wouldn't have in the Philippines. That world is done. The best information is online and it's free. So don't think of leaving Philippines because you want access to information, because you have access to information. What you want to do is ability to experiment. And there you have to consider if you cannot experiment in the Philippines, I think you can, right? You should think of skills like design engineering. There's actually a discipline that talks about how do you become a designer that can build things. That to me is worth a lot more than an engineering degree today. Consider understanding a bit more mathematics, but not in the traditional sense of mathematics, but applied mathematics in the sense of problem solving. So, for instance, I advise La Salle University on the faculty of computing to help them build a more modern curricula, and I really would like everyone to take physics, because physicists have to solve problems in 10 different ways, the exact same problem, right? And they're good at being creative with mathematics. I think that's a great thing to learn. The other thing that I think would be great to learn is psychology, especially behavioral psychology. Why? If you're trying to be at the forefront of AI, the more that you understand how human intelligence works, the easier it's going to be to design artificial intelligence. The coding aspect will be commoditized. Eventually, ChatGPT will code for us, so you don't need to be a coder. And sorry to scare you, but if you're studying coding and only coding, you would be obsolete and commoditized in about 5 years, so don't. However, understanding humans and how humans will interact with technology, that's a field that is really hard to find good people for. And I run a behavioral science lab, and I can tell you that I struggle finding good professionals in Asia, because we don't tend to think of psychology as a serious discipline, because we don't like to take therapy, right? We like to keep our pains deep down and have very dysfunctional harmony in Asia. But if we understand that understanding ourselves is the best way to design the systems, we could create a generation of AI designers in the Philippines just by learning more about psychology. In fact, there's a field of computational psychology that, to me, is underserved worldwide. So if you like psychology and you can handle the statistics, you could build yourself a career where you'll make a lot of money by staying in the Philippines just by providing remote support.
Oh, wow. Well, that reminds me, talking about behavioral psychology, there's one mastermind colleague of mine, Cliff Ayala, who would be inspiring us well and talking about this. So this would be very interesting topic. That's another segment of it, isn't it? So if you are to, just for a fun note here, I was wondering if you could give an AI any piece of advice, what would it be?
AI advice to AI? I don't know if I like that question, because there's some inherent assumption that AI has a purpose, like an entity. right?
Mhm.
And I think the objective function of AI, so how the designer created AI, is the function, right? Is the purpose. So I wouldn't give the advice to AI, but I would give it to the creator of AI, to the
Okay.
design, right? Also, I want to dispel the idea of AI as an entity, because I don't think it is, right? It's just a tool. Yeah. So I wouldn't give it an advice to a racket. I would give it to the tennis player.
Yeah, that's true.
That. So I would encourage anyone that is building AI or looking to design AI to understand humans better. If you're only focusing on algorithms as a data scientist, as a computational professional, you're making a mistake. And I try to teach that in my class too. You could obtain more output, more power by enhancing humans, even if your algorithm is subpar, than by doing the best algorithm without humans. Because at the end of the day, what matters is that people are inspired by your work, not threatened by it. So my advice is think of Star Trek and not the Matrix. Help build a world where you're empowering humans, not replacing them, because it will work better. Human intelligence, and I would say organic intelligence, because I see this in animals too, is so mysterious on what it's capable to do that even as an anthropological experiment, you would want to take that quantitative task away from the human so that their intelligence can evolve more qualitatively. And if you think of growing in the ability like Manslow did, with the philosopher king being the top of everything, the moment that you take the menial task away from humans, they will do things like art. They will be more philosophers. They'll probably be a lot more wise. And a world with a lot more wise people, artists, and philosophers is by definition a world that is probably better than the one we live in. So that would be my advice to anyone in the field of computer science. Yeah.
Well, as we wrap up, I have a next question for you. What exciting projects or developments can we expect from you in 2025 and the coming years? So.
Wow. So some of them I can talk about, some of them I can't. Something to make you excited about, and it's in the media already. I don't know if you appreciate this, but I think it's important to say. The power industry is the largest infrastructure project in the history of humankind. By size, there's nothing bigger in infrastructure than the power electricity, the generation that we've created, okay? And it is the fundamental layer to anything else that an economy needs. No electricity, no economy, period. The Philippines will have, by the end of this year and next year, some of the best run power plants of Southeast Asia in two. And it's not run in a condition where everything works like Japan, because you could argue that those are better, but they have fixed everything. They have fixed their infrastructure, their knowledge, their data, their engineers. They have all the resources they need to run them that way. The plans that we're going to run in an environment where we don't have all the right people, when we don't have all the right infrastructure, we don't have all the right supply chain. That working, Filipinos should be proud of the fact that we're showing the way of how to do something as critical as power with the limited resources and knowledge that we have, just because we were creative at applying AI. So that is one thing to be proud of, I think. And if you're in the Philippines, so you want to learn more about AI and power, this would be a great place. But 5 years from now, a lot of those knowledge base will come from here. Indonesia is going to learn from us. Malaysia is going to learn from us. India will learn from us. So this is one thing that you guys are probably not aware of, but that's just really exciting to me, right?
Yeah. So as a community, how can we engage ourselves in it? This is really exciting news.
It is I don't know how to explain it, but that's why I'm here in the first place. If you're interested, obviously, school is one. We have collaborations with La Salle University, with Ames, with Dillman, UP Dillman. If you're in those schools, reach out and we will listen. Right? I need to train and prepare intelligent, motivated young Filipinos to carry these through. Because I am a foreigner, at some point, all foreigners end up leaving or getting tired of retiring, and I'm not particularly a young spring chicken, so I need to transfer all this.
We're in the same generation here. So.
But to be fair, my intent to work this hard for this long, it's gonna wane down in about 5 to 10 years. So I need a generation of Filipinos to take this through and take it on themselves. The other part, I think, if you're a Filipino that's abroad, and I want to really repeat this, if you're a Filipino that's abroad, you will probably find a lot more in your mission and in the quality of your career if you come back. There's very less meaning in what you're doing over there than what you could be doing over here. I know it's been hard, and I know that you had to leave because there was no choice. But we're reaching a moment where you could really bring back something that this country needs. In spite of its politics, in spite of whatever else, it's a good time to bring that knowledge back, because that knowledge could be critical to design a new system, to start a new company. And we need it. And not only do we need it for the Philippines, if it's done well, we're doing it for the rest of Southeast Asia.
So are you able to help us and tell us more about it in the next episode?
Sure, we'll talk about it in the next episode, the future of what we could do here, right? Yeah.
So it's okay. So this will be very interesting, because for all of you Filipinos out there who have businesses, and for those of you overseas foreign workers who would like to also start businesses here in the Philippines, we can start incorporating AI and into our operations. And of course, we have Luis Gonzalez here to also tell us how. Somehow, we would love to learn more about this in another episode. That's exciting. Okay.
Next time.
I am so excited. So, of course, any final words of wisdom for our viewers out there looking to innovate, grow their careers or businesses? Do you have any last advice for this episode?
Yes. Humanity, not just Philippines, is a stepping into a moment of great unknowns, of no ability to only really understand what will happen. That's just a fact. You are blessed with a thick skin and the right mentality and attitude to make it through. You've made it through in spite of not having money, in spite of not having roads, in spite of not having all kinds of things that are limitations in your country. But that has made you harder. It's made you stronger, more resilient, and you sing through it all. That is the key for the kind of pain and adversity that the world is going to see, not just the Philippines. You hold some of the most valuable attitudes and tools necessary to lead the way in this transformation. So by no means think that you're behind, because what's one of the hardest things to build in somebody, which is resilience and adaptiveness, you already know how to do. You just need to learn the technology. And the best thing is you don't need to develop it. Just take what the Americans have done, take what the Chinese has done, and Philippinize it. To me, that's why I'm here, because I think that it's a lot faster for me to teach a Filipino how to do AI than to teach a Singaporean how to be resilient.
This is such an incredible conversation. Thank you so much, Luis, for joining us today. Maraming salamat. And of course, Luis, thank you for sharing your valuable time. I know you're a very, very busy man. And of course, such an honor to have you. So to our viewers out there, remember, the Filipinos World is your platform, We're here to celebrate your achievements, connect you with opportunities, and keep you inspired. Your greatest asset is your ability to adapt and grow. And of course, whether you're an OFW dreaming of starting a business back home, an aspiring entrepreneur with a big idea, or corporate leader looking to drive innovation, the principles we've discussed today can help you break through new levels of success. And of course,
And one last thing,
it's amazing, right?
while you're doing it, it's a
Mhm.
proven neuroscience approach to learning faster. You guys play with everything, even with things you shouldn't be playing with. So that ability to have fun while you're doing things is so critical.
Mm.
Don't lose that and use it in the building of new ideas.
This is good because for the next episode that you're gonna be joining us in, this would be talking about how I'm gonna be learning a lot from you. And of course, ladies and gentlemen, this episode, of course, presented by Maffei Management Consultancy in partnership with the Manila Times and in collaboration with Azul TV, and brought to you by Lab Mojo, Bayanina Express, and of course, One Earth Organics, Ancient and Brave Collagen, Bee Coffee, Next Gen Fitness, and of course, thank you so much, Luis, for joining us today. And don't forget to follow us on Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, and for more inspiring content. If you found today's episode inspiring, please share it with your friends and colleagues who might benefit from these insights. So join me next time at Spotlight on Global Leaders here at the Filipinos World. This is Karla Kangleon reminding you that the power to shape your future is in your hands. So mabuhay ang Pilipinas. Paalam.
Maffei Management is a company dedicated to empowering individuals and businesses in PR and marketing, social media management, online show and podcast production, business consulting, graphic design, photography and videography, workshops and classes, events management, personality development, logo creation, illustrations, and animation. In working together to turn their dreams into reality. Get one step closer to elevating yourself and your business by contacting hello@maffeimanagement.com. Let us empower you.
Sign up for a year and pay less than 71 pesos per month. Visit tmt.ph/premium to get your free 30 days of the Manila Times Premium.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
This program is in partnership with the Manila Times, Azul TV, and brought to you by Love Module, Bex Logistics Solutions.